Hi, friends. Welcome back to Strong as You Think. I'm glad you could be with us again. Today, I want to talk about how sometimes after we've learned about how our thoughts and our beliefs can cause our feelings, that sometimes we get a little confused and start judging ourselves for that. So a lot of what I've been teaching here kind of goes back to how our thoughts and our beliefs cause our feelings, which also fuel our actions and causes a lot of the things that happen in our lives. And that's why I've titled that Strong as You Think, is because when we can get a control of our thoughts and our beliefs, then that enables us to have more control and power and in our lives. But it doesn't really help when we see that we're having something go on in our lives that we don't like, or when we see that we're bothered, irritated, hurt by someone else and think, well, I know that my own thoughts are causing this, so I shouldn't be thinking that about them. And I know they're not trying to hurt me, but you're still having those feelings, right? And telling yourself all those things. I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't feel this. It's actually not helpful. It doesn't, for the most part, it doesn't, especially once the feeling has come on, once you're really feeling that, just telling yourself you don't doesn't work. And we've talked about how in past episodes, how if we can process that feeling by leaning into it in our bodies, that can help. But along with that processing it is we want to kind of listen to what that thought is, what that belief is, what meaning is that's fueling that feeling. Because that's probably where we want to be aware of what's going on there and then really make a decision. And that's where our strength and our power comes in, is when we can, it starts with the awareness. Okay. So I have an example of this. I was working with a client once, and she was feeling some resentment for her husband, feeling like we always do the things that he wants to do. All of our shared interests started with things that he wanted to do. And she was feeling some resentment toward him, but she's like, but I know that he's not trying to force it on me. I shouldn't be feeling this way, but I feel like, why is it everything that, that he wants to do? So we kind of talked about this for a while, and I kind of asked, why are you thinking that? And we kind of came up with that she had a belief that she was too dependent on him, right? So the resentment wasn't coming because of what he was doing. It was coming because of what she was believing about herself, that she believed that she was not independent enough, or she was too dependent on him. And that was really useful, because as we continue to talk about it, she realized that she didn't even really want to choose all the activities. She's like, yeah, actually, I think that if I felt like I had to choose all our activities, I think that it would just be something else to do and another pressure on me. I don't think I would really enjoy it that much anyway. So I'm okay with him choosing our activities. And she realized that it was actually a choice, that he wasn't forcing that on her, but because of she had this belief inside that she was too dependent, her brain saw that as evidence that she was too dependent on him, when in actuality, she was kind of making that choice. So we want to be careful because our brains keep wanting to find evidence for things that they already believe. And it's just easier that way. Someone said once, our brains like to be right more than they want to feel good. So we think that we're always just looking to feel good, but our brains want to do what's easy, and what's easy is being right, because they already know how to do that. They think it's harder to change a belief, so it's easier to just find evidence for another belief, for not another belief, but a belief that we already have. So when she was aware of that, she said, she started realizing, no, I actually chose that. It's not because I'm dependent on him. And as she made that realization, she started being able to think about other areas of her life where she felt like she had independence and where she felt like she had strengths, maybe where her husband didn't have strengths. So all of a sudden, as she worked on changing that belief, her brain started working on finding evidence to support that. And she made a conscious choice that, no, that I don't have to believe that I'm too dependent on him. I actually made a choice there. And I just think and then she didn't even have to even really have a conversation with her husband about it. All of a sudden, she realized that was her own beliefs and she could change it. And it wasn't even a big deal. It was, she didn't even have to talk to her husband. And at least not about that. We want her to talk to her husband, right? So it's just really interesting to take our feelings, to take anything that's making us feel uncomfortable as just an indication of where our next best work is to be. She was able to root out a belief that she didn't like because she felt uncomfortable. And it, helped her with her relationship with her husband, that she didn't even realize in some ways that she was having a problem. She was kind of having this underlying, irritation maybe with him, or some resentment that she didn't even know why, till we kind of started digging at it. And once we had the awareness of it, she was able to make a conscious choice to think, does this make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, what does? And sometimes it's easy enough, like our brain can attach onto a new belief, but sometimes it's going to take a little longer, and we're going to have to practice with our brain and kind of catch it. And sometimes we catch it when we feel it, the feeling we don't like again. And then we process the feeling, and then we kind of remind ourselves about that. But sometimes it can get to the point when the thought starts to creep in and we're like, no, that doesn't make sense. We know that doesn't make sense. But it just comes, we can start catching it earlier and earlier. So let's just take a look at it and just maybe think about it before you even need to have a conversation with somebody else. Maybe just do a little work with yourself first. I'm not saying that we don't need to have conversations with other people when we have disagreements or feelings, unpleasant feelings, with another person. I'm not saying we never have a conversation with them. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is that sometimes it just comes from something in here, in our thoughts and our feelings. And it would be wise to just get some awareness of that. It might stop there, but we might get the awareness, and it might still be wise to talk to the other person. But if we have that awareness first going into it, I think we're going to feel a lot more empowered as we go into a conversation with somebody else. So thank you for joining me this time, and we'll see you next time. Bye.